We have to talk about this Hunter Biden pardon because there's something that I really want you to understand that's extremely important and a little inside baseball and is lost on many members of the media. And because I want you to be the smartest person in the room when it comes to the Second Amendment and constitutional law generally, I need to go over a particular point of why it really is so evil, in my opinion, that Joe Biden pardoned Hunter Biden. Even though it may have the effect of being good for the Second Amendment community, by the way, I want you to understand the reality on the ground of why this really was very bad on the part of the Biden family. And it's not the sort of thing I think you're going to hear other places. So check it out when we come back. Folks, I'm Mark Smith, host of the Four Boxes Diner, proud American gun owner, constitutional attorney, member of the United States Supreme Court Bar, and I'm proud to say a nominee for a 2025 Gundy's Award for Top Voice in the Second Amendment. Top Voice for 2A. I'm always proud to be nominated for a Gundy's Award. I like to show support for our Second Amendment creative community. It's very important what our friends do all across the board. We must all fight together to defend our Second Amendment rights, whether it be in social media, on the ground, voting, or otherwise. And I'm always proud to be associated with the Gundy's Awards and proud to be nominated with my fellow friends. And of course, make sure you vote for the handsome YouTuber in the Top Voice of the 2A, Mark Smith, Four Boxes Diner. Who has better hair in the Second Amendment community than I do? Seriously. All right, folks, so this is important. Now, Joe Biden has pardoned Hunter Biden for 11 years of crimes, any federal crime whatsoever. That includes, hypothetically, if Hunter Biden engaged in, let's say, other federal crimes other than his gun crime or his tax crime, he would now be pardoned for any and all federal crimes going back to something like 2004 or whatever it is. But that's not the purpose of today's video. That's just laying it out as to what we're going to talk about. There's a lot of comparisons about Donald Trump pardoning people that he knows and Joe Biden pardoning his son. But the real issue, and the reason why, in my opinion, it was really evil how Joe Biden did this, why it's really so terrible, is because why and how Joe Biden denied that he was going to do this. And you need to understand this one critical point. Joe Biden said repeatedly for over a long period of time, as did all the Democrats, as did his press secretaries, as did all the media, that Joe Biden was such an upstanding, law-abiding American, fighting for truth, justice, and the American way, that he was willing to let the justice system, listen carefully, he was willing to let the justice system and the United States Department of Justice, under Joe Biden as president, do their jobs because he thought the system was so trustworthy and honest and uncorruptible that he was willing to let it play out without interfering in any respect in the Hunter Biden cases. Now, this was total hooey. And why do I say that? What was really going on here, and this is the key to understand, what was really going on here was at the same time that Joe Biden is pretending that the justice system and the United States Department of Justice under Joe Biden was fair and honest and uncorruptible and impartial and just doing their jobs, at the same time he was saying he trusted it so much that he wasn't willing to interfere with the Hunter Biden case. What else was going on in the American justice system? What else was Joe Biden's Department of Justice doing? We know what they were doing. They were indicting Donald Trump for alleged top secret documents in Florida and then playing games with the photographs they released to the press to make it look like these things were obviously top secret documents when it looks like they really were not. Okay? They were indicting Donald Trump associated with January 6th. They were litigating against Donald Trump to try to keep him off the ballot using some insurrection argument associated with the 14th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution. They were trying to put Donald Trump in jail in New York State in front of Judge Juan Marchand for a bookkeeping set of BS misdemeanor crimes that were parlayed into some sort of felony, which is never going to stand the test of an appeal if it ever gets that far, going after there. Then they had Letitia James, who literally campaigned on going after to get the NRA and going after to get Donald Trump, literally trying to win and winning hundreds of millions of dollars which is probably also going to get reversed on appeal in a civil lawsuit in front of Judge Aragon in New York State. So while all of this lawfare is going on, not to mention the Fannie Willis indictments of Donald Trump and all the other people that were fighting for election integrity in Georgia, not to mention all the January 6th stuff, not to mention going after Roger Stone, Mike Flynn, not to mention, putting Steve Bannon in prison, not to mention, putting all these other folks in prison that were associated with President Trump, including Paul Manafort. Yanking him off a plane in D.C. or Dulles, I forget which airport it was down there, yanking him off a plane in chains. That's what the FBI did. While all this lawfare was going on against Donald Trump and his associates, and this is why it's so evil, Joe Biden was pretending that this was all okay, that this was not lawfare. This was part of the honest administration of justice in America. And to perpetrate that lie, that this justice system was acting justly and fairly and impartially toward Donald Trump, which is hooey, and no one is a more aggressive litigator than I am, by the way, okay? So I speak from experience in terms of being a super aggressive trial lawyer and litigator in huge cases for many years. So I understand what it means to be an aggressive lawyer. I'm fine with it. But what the Department of Justice did in these cases was beyond the pale and unacceptable, okay? It's one thing to be super hyper aggressive. It's another thing to do what they did to Donald Trump. That was wrong. And they did it because he was the political opponent of not just President Biden, but he was the political opponent of the deep state, of the Department of Justice, and of the establishment. And that's why they did it, and that's wrong what they did. This went far beyond hyper-aggressive litigation tactics, far beyond hyper-aggressive litigation. This was something different. This was truly lawfare, trying to influence the outcome of the election and far more than that. Okay, but with that said, the reason why it's so evil what Joe Biden did here is he tried to perpetrate this myth that what was going on with the justice system was an ordinary course of events, that Donald Trump brought it upon himself because he did all this stuff. And as a consequence, he was willing to create the impression that he was not going to pardon Hunter Biden and that Hunter Biden would pay his price like any other American that violated the law in some particular way. And never forget, it was that Delaware Federal District Court judge, Judge Mary Ellen Noriega, who we like. Why? Because she's the first federal judge in American history that actually found in a court opinion that you and I, as Americans, have the Second Amendment right to keep and bear arms, obviously, but by extension of that, you and I have the individual Second Amendment right to make our own firearms. That's right. Judge Noriega says we have a right to make our own firearms. In a court opinion, we like her very much. And the reason why she plays a role in this, it was Judge Noriega, who's very intelligent, okay? She is the one that unraveled that sweetheart plea deal involving Hunter Biden and the Biden Department of Justice. Never forget that the only reason why Hunter Biden had to go through and be found guilty of this gun crime and the tax crimes was because this sweetheart plea deal between Biden's DOJ on the one hand and Hunter Biden on the other hand fell apart, and it only fell apart in open court when Judge Noriega asked a series of very detailed, pointed questions about this unorthodox, strange, weird deal that had apparently been structured by the parties, and she says, I cannot sign off on this. This doesn't smell right. And that blew up the deal between DOJ and Hunter. Had she not done that, had this case gone in front of, like, in my opinion, some typical anti-Trump, pro-Biden judge, of which there are many, like if they'd gone in front of virtually any of the judges in the District of Columbia, for example, is my guess, that this would have been rubber stamped and Hunter Biden would have skated off basically with nothing. Nada. That was the plan. That was the goal. That was what was going to happen. And the only reason why the Hunter Biden thing got unwound was because Judge Noriega asked those questions that revealed this highly unorthodox, unconventional arrangement. And she's like, this is not appropriate. This is not consistent with anything I've done. I want this briefed as to whether or not this can actually legally occur, right? because this doesn't seem legal at all. And that's when the whole thing blew up, fell apart, and the deal went away. And then they had no choice but to prosecute Hunter Biden for the gun charge in Delaware and the tax charges, I believe, in California. And it all kind of fell by the wayside. But this entire time, up until Donald Trump's election, where they're persecuting Donald Trump with this lawfare all across America, pretending that this is legitimate, Joe Biden is providing political and PR, public relations cover for the lawfare engaged in by his very own DOJ and other Democratic operatives in New York and in Georgia and beyond, and in D.C. And that's why it's so evil what Joe Biden did here. It's not the act of pardoning his son. It's that he lied repeatedly about it. And to compound that, it's not just the lie, it's the reason why he lied. The reason why Joe Biden lied was to cover up and make it appear as if the lawfare against Donald Trump was legitimate. That's why it's evil. It's not the pardoning of Hunter Biden. It may not even be the lie. It's the reason for the lie and the repeated lies that allowed the Democratic Party and their handmaidens in the legacy media to repeat over and over and over again that, hey, the system's perfectly fair. Donald Trump brought it upon himself. Look at Joe Biden. Joe Biden thinks the system's fair. And now that Joe Biden has basically said that the system is broken, that his Department of Justice did wrong, and they mishandled the Hunter Biden case. In the long run, it will be good for the Second Amendment community and for the Make America Great Again community. It will be good for Donald Trump, and so on and so on. It will have good effects, what happened here. It also, of course, will reaffirm and really demonstrate the lawfare that was going on and how it went all the way up to the President of the United States that was encouraging this lawfare and helping perpetrate this lawfare against Donald Trump, which is extremely evil and very, very, very dangerous. Because if you don't trust the actual process of the judicial system, and the system does not also appear fair, remember, all judicial systems have to have two things. It has to actually run fairly, and it has to appear fair to third parties. Because if a system doesn't appear fair, that is also very bad, because you need people to respect the outcome of judicial cases. And if they stop respecting the outcome of judicial civil cases or judicial criminal cases, you have a breakdown in the rule of law. And this is extremely bad, because if you don't have a rule of law to resolve disputes and controversies among the people, they will resort to other means that are much less attractive and appealing and efficient and good, for a bunch of reasons that we can all envision. All right, there you go, folks. We'll be talking a lot more about the Second Amendment, but I want you to understand some of these things, because these really do touch on things that interact with the Second Amendment and with our Constitution. So some of this stuff I have to talk to you about. I think it's very important that you get this right to be the smartest person in the room, and that is my goal. So there you have it, folks. I hope you enjoyed today's video. Make sure you vote for me for the Gundy Awards 2025 Top Voices in the Second Amendment category. And like this video, share this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on X, over 20,000 followers on X, at 4 Boxes Diner. And we will see you again very soon, I hope, here at the 4 Boxes Diner.
Orders up. Table 2A.